Well, detox continues. I have had a long day. Oh, it's 10 o'clock, so it's good that it feels like a long day because it's late. I was up at 7:30, so not too early today. But this is my third day off sugar. This was the first day that I started to have a little bit of a craving. Just kind of snuck in twice this evening after 5:30, 6 o'clock. I got this moment where I was like, ooh. And then I was like, no. And then later, maybe like an hour ago, I was like, oh, I'm so achy. Being without sugar didn't solve it, so maybe I should have something. I was like, no. I'm doing the detox. So I had a little bit of a tuna finger sandwich instead. And that was fine. So I had yeah, I had like some deep layers come out today, and I think like it's really good, right? But it is unpleasant for me because it's like anger. Yeah, I got a little bit angry today. But you can't fight fire with fire, right? I actually listened to a reading earlier and the girl said, you can't fight fire with fire. And I was like perked up. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true. And I mean, obviously I know that, but I just like took notice because it was relevant for me on today. Because, I have this situation and it's just trying, but it's not like. So basically, I've been working on building the tiny house. I mentioned it in my last video. And someone undid a lot of my work. And because I've been so run down with like this detox, I don't have a lot of energy, you know? And I think I was just feeling so defeated in the moment because I was like, I don't even have energy to do this again, you know? Like my mind just went to like victim. And I had to have a little like standing up for myself moment, But that doesn't help the situation because it wasn't like someone trying to hurt me, It wasn't like a situation that I needed to stick up for myself on because it was not, the case was not that someone was trying to hurt me. So on the reading, she goes on to say, you fight fire with water. And in this case, water is love and compassion. And I was like, yeah, that's what I usually do, but not today. So what does that mean for me? That means that there's these layers in here. Like, while I'm detoxing, there's like a part of me that just wants to be acknowledged for the anger that she has not been allowed to feel, you know? And I think that it's pretty easy for me to logic away anger because I've already done a lot of work on anger before, but it's not asking for me to logic it away. It's asking me for me to honor how I feel, you know? So, and anger has not been something that, like, well, probably no one enjoys feeling anger. I was just gonna say it's not something I've enjoyed feeling. And then I realized, oh, probably no one really enjoys anger. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, um, so I've got to let myself process that because it clouds my view until I do, right? It's in there. It's lodged in there, deep, deep, deep. It was really buried, you know? But, and here's how I know. It's because, like, on a day-to-day basis, this could have happened and I would have just taken it in stride. But because I'm all worn down, because I have no energy, because there are things being asked of me and I just feel a little bit, drained. that's when it came out. But because it came out, we know it's in there, right? Like, you know? So I used to say in the beginning of my journey that I had the benefit of having poor coping mechanisms because my coping mechanisms crumbled, and that's what left me in like this pile of rubble and like needing to start picking myself back up and doing the healing work. And I would look at it like the poor coping mechanisms were a gift, because if I had good coping mechanisms, then I wouldn't have known to heal. And what I realize now is what I've been doing is I've already dealt with the stuff that had to do with the poor coping mechanisms. What I've been dealing with is stuff that I have good coping mechanisms for. So now it's easier to like overlook or, put it off or suppress and deny or like logic my way through and be like, oh, this is the right way to act. But it's like the reading I did yesterday. It's like I shouldn't be using my logic to act. I should be in my moment and I should be in my authenticity. And like, there's an inner part of me that will do the right thing. Like, if I let her be the one to express, I don't have to be scared that she's gonna hurt somebody or be unkind or be, even if she's foolish, like, she's fine with that, you know? She doesn't she's not invested in always being right. She's curious, she likes to learn. If someone were to correct her, she would be curious about it. She's not offended, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason not to let her express now. So that kind of feels good. But it's just a matter of kind of clearing away this stuff that has been in the way of me allowing that. So yeah, that's what's been happening with me. Um, on the other hand, though, some of the relationships in my life have improved greatly, you know, and things are going really well, and things are just coming together, and I am finding a little bit of challenge with integrating the other payment methods into my app, but it's no challenge that I can't overcome. There have been like disappointing moments, like I lost my Etsy shop of 7 years, and it's kind of nice to have longevity with these kind of things, you know. But whatever, I just started a new Etsy shop. I talked about it in the reading I did yesterday. It's Companion Julie. I'm going to be doing some personal readings there. So if you're interested, take a look. I don't know for how long. Oh, isn't this interesting? There's an app that I used to use years ago, and someone just posted a comment to it that got my attention, and that has not happened in years, and I'm talking like 5, 6, 7 years. Interesting. Okay. So it might be, the universe's orchestration saying, like, go back on that app, because that app was a place where I did a lot of my work. And the thing about that app is it's a barter app, but the app compels you to leave a review for the person that you barter with. So on that app, you get reviews. And all my reviews are good. But they're like from 2017, so it's not like I can use them now, But maybe some new reviews would also be helpful as well. Yeah. Yeah, that's opens up some possibilities in my mind too. So I may check that out. That's a good idea. Okay. So the reason why I was actually looking at my phone though is I thought we would do a reading. So I just go right over to my app, and then I have an Oracle section in the app, which is available to free subscribers of the app. So everyone can use the Oracle. Now, throughout the app, there are places where you can save readings. There are different Oracle readings, and then there's an Oracle section where there are 11 card pickers for you to use. And they're all decks that I made because I didn't want to get into like trouble with copyright stuff, But I have certain titles under the cards to help you do a reading, but you can actually, use whatever you want. You can make the card mean what you want. You can use your mind to decide what the spread is, you know? They're just some like loose ideas there already. And then on the specific topics where you find card readers throughout the app, those ones are more specifically targeting the topic that they're meant for, and you can save those readings and recall them for later. Okay, so let's look at a reading for right now. We'll do a reading before bed. Let's do an astrology reading. We'll use my astrology oracle. I guess I could show you this. Let's see if I can show you this. It's hard to see here, but these are the cards. There's a slight animation on most of them when you're picking them. The astrology cards have a lot of cards, so, and then the reading comes out there. Okay, so let's see. The heart of the matter, Heb. I think Heb is about... What the heck is Heb? Heb, mythology. So Heb is the name of an asteroid, and when we have an asteroid in the chart, we kind of look to the mythology that is represented to see what themes are going with that asteroid, usually. The goddess of youth and eternal youth, the cup-bearer to the gods of Mount Olympus. Her name translates to youth or bloom of youth. She's the daughter of Zeus and Hera, sister to Eris, the wife of Hercules, mother of twins. I'm a mother of twins. Served the gods nectar and ambrosia to maintain their power and youth. She had the unique power to restore or age mortals and other gods. Wow. Okay. So when she represents youth, she represents whether you have youth or not. Let's see. Now I did just talk about me healing and then this version of me inside me that is like trustworthy to express because, she's sort of innocent. That's my inner child that I was talking about. Heart of the matter, Heb. So youth. Influencing on a practical level, seventh house. Seventh house represents our partnerships, our relationships. It can be business partnerships, but any relationship really where it's you and another. Not necessarily group dynamics. So on a practical level, this youth, so there may be a question of maturity. Influencing on an emotional level, we got the blank card. That means that there's something that can't be explained here or that it's not relevant. Opportunity, Constantia. So the opportunity is to stay committed to something. Challenging factor, Amicitia. And balance out the mystery. Maybe, okay, so this is just the feeling I got. Maybe there's something that you're considering going into, and it's like there's too much mystery associated with it right now. Like you don't know what would happen, or you kind of want to know. Maybe age is a factor. Maybe your maturity or theirs a maturity is a factor. This seems to be with one other person. There's an opportunity to establish something here. And the challenge is around friendship, which is interesting. So I kind of think that maybe you're wanting more than friendship. And maybe you just don't know if this person is into that. Like, what if you were to start out as friends, though? Like, let's see. influencing on an emotional level. You haven't let your emotions come in on this. You're using your logic. And I did talk about that in the intro, where I said that I had been using my logic to handle situations that required me to use water, which is emotions and love, compassion and love. Instead of fighting fire with fire, I needed to fight fire with water. And instead I was using my logic, so I was using air. I was fighting fire with air. It's not advised, you know? And so this is kind of saying, like, you do have emotional, something's missing here on the emotion where you may be using logic instead. So think, and this is bringing up youth. So think about maybe the way you've always done things, or the way that you've been taught to do things, or it's like, is the method that you've been using an immature way to look at this thing? Is there a more mature way to look at this? This is something you could research, I just heard. Let's do another reading with concepts. Let's see what the concepts cards have to add to this reading. Now, as I pick another reading, it would be nice if you could see this. Maybe if I lower the brightness, you think that would help? A little bit. So that's like the first card. You can see the whole card, and then can't see it that well. So this reading is still here, and then I can go down and then do this reading. And that's right here. See? So I'll be able to reference the other reading. I'm just showing you how the app works, because why not show you since I've already mentioned the app? Just in case it piques your interest, right? So this reading is saying your environment, soul contract. So this has to do with a soul contract, meaning you're in this experience, in this situation, because your soul wanted to learn something from it, or you maybe have an obligation to help someone else learn something from it. Need these, okay. I guess I need these. How this affects you. Trust. Do you question whether or not you can trust the other person? And usually the answer to not being able to trust others is that we don't trust ourselves. So basically it comes down to trusting ourselves to handle this ourselves no matter what happens. So this is highlighting that for you. And this, because you're in this situation, it's like, don't say you're wrong or you messed up. Say, oh, this is highlighting this for me. This was an important thing for me to look at within myself. The fact that I might waver on self-trust. I might not know that I have my own back yet, you know? And then an underlying issue, effort. I just heard, like, if you're a person who often has people coming to you, and this requires you to go to somebody else, that ties into, like, the way you've always done it. You know, if the way you've always done it is you've let people to come to you. Now, if you're a masculine, and actually a lot of my viewers are masculines, if you're a masculine and you're requiring women to come to you, you're actually putting them in the masculine role, because the masculine should be the pursuer. And if you put a woman in the masculine role, then you fall into the feminine role. And eventually, it's not going to work, because you will want to be in the masculine role, or she'll want you to be in the masculine role. And, you know, if it's same-sex couples, just use whoever is more feminine and masculine if that is the case. Usually there's going to be a polarity that causes the attraction, right? So anyway, I'm just pointing out that this is requiring some effort from you that you might not be used to putting in. Change is needed. Accomplishment. Oh, So if you have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish, I'm inviting you to relinquish, to let go of that, because, for instance, one of Bashar's major teachings is that we put everything, we go towards our highest excitement with absolutely no insistence on the outcome. And the reason is because we need it to unfold how it's meant to unfold. We kind of need the divine orchestration to be what it is, and that we're the experiencer of it. When we start trying to control things, that's resistance, and now we're going to be in pain in some way or another. It's not going to be what it's meant to be, and it might be a lesson. Whenever we're putting our control into it, there's a lesson. So this is kind of saying, like, maybe don't do this for the purpose of accomplishing something, but for the purpose of, this is your highest excitement. You're following your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on the outcome. What helps? Movement. Making a move. What hinders? Make a choice. It hinders you to keep just trying to decide. So there is no choice, okay? Because this is going to haunt you if you don't make the move. You've got to do this. It's a soul contract. You're being called up into something that's out of your comfort zone, right? And it was set up this way, a perfect storm that puts you in the position to have to do this. Like, you will do this, right? And all of the fodder, I want to say, about what it's going to be, and you don't know, and what can you do to figure it out, and blah, 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 that is all just you running on a hamster wheel. So yeah, do that as long as you need to get yourself in a position where you trust yourself, right? Know that you've covered all your bases in the fact that you're going to have your own back no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what the reason is that your soul has you into this experience, because you don't know what the outcome is. And that is the way it was set up. I found this in my journey, that there are times where I absolutely wanted to know. I do oracle cards, I do tarot cards. I like to know. I like to know stuff, right? But I was put into positions along the way that forced me to do things without knowing. And the reason is because I had to learn to trust myself. And my faith was being tested. Do I have faith even when I don't know? And this seems to be one of the things that you're being faced with now, is to surrender, to have trust. And all you can do for that is, like, trust yourself to have your own back when whatever happens, because you don't have control over it. It is not up to you. You do have to put some effort in, but the effort is in, like, maybe establishing a friendship, or maybe earning somebody else's trust, right? What do you have to do to earn somebody's trust in life? Well, most people that are adults aren't going to just naively trust you. There's this, like, thing that happens where people take a step towards each other and a step toward each other, and they get to know each other, and then over time they get to know each other, and then there's like a pattern of behavior. And in mature relationships, if there are, like, an ongoing relationship, I would say that there would be, like, agreements, like, oh, when I'm going to show up this way in this relationship, even just friendships, I'm going to show up this way consistently, and I'm going to show up this way consistently, so we can count on this from each other. It's like, because in a friendship, you want each other to be comfortable, and you want a space where you can be vulnerable. You got to create that space. Whatever space you need to be comfortable, you have to create it. It's not just like magically existing in another person unless we're in a fairy tale, unless we're in a movie, unless we've already learned all the soul lessons around relationships, and that's not what this is. But it kind of seems like you might be exploring relationships because we have the seventh house here. So at least some aspects of relationships are something that your soul is exploring here. And it looks like you're being put in a position to actually like make some sort of effort, which feels difficult and challenging because it's out of your comfort zone, but that's the design of it. It's meant to be that way. Get into the position where you trust yourself so you can take this, but also like have no attachment to the outcome, and stop mulling it over as if you have a choice, because you don't have a choice, because your soul is going to put this in front of you and put this in front of you, put this in front of you, because this is the experience you are meant to have in order to help your soul progress into where it's going, what it needs for the next thing. You're getting to know yourself, and you're getting to know yourself in a situation that you maybe don't know yourself in yet. I don't know what I'm going to be like. It's maybe not even about what the other person's going to be like in the situation. It's you don't even know what you'll be like in that situation. Maybe you say that. You're like, I don't really know. Like, this is new to me too, but I am curious and I am kind of excited at the thought of like getting to know another person, or going on an adventure with another person, or making an agreement, or, just being a little bit vulnerable. You can even preface being vulnerable with, I'm not really good at this, but I want to try it out. And is it okay? And can I expect from you that you would, that I can do this and be held in confidence or something like that, Just like only do that when you trust yourself to have your own back no matter what happens. Because whatever you're doing, like, you can't get this wrong. You're the observer. You're not playing God. You're not trying to control things. You're having an experience that your soul is compelling you towards. You know your soul is compelling you towards it. It's why it won't leave you alone. It's playing over and over, and you're acting like you have a choice. That is just a way for you to delay. This is something that your soul agreed to. It's bigger than you. It's something that you came in to do. It's like part of the plan, just like being born was, you know? And you'll learn something, and just go into it like that, right? Maybe you'll learn about friendship, because that seems like what the challenge is. What is friendship to you? It's interesting that we have Heb as the heart of the matter, the youth. Maybe you've just been handling these type things in a very immature way. And I'm not insulting you by saying that. We all are maturing ourselves at all times, right? Like when I'm talking about in the intro how I had to process some fire, some anger. It's like that anger was suppressed and denied in me since childhood, right? But that has been affecting how I relate as an adult. And that meant that I couldn't be in the moment, that I couldn't express from that inner child part of me because I was trying to behave correctly. You see how that takes away from who I really am, my authenticity, and like, doesn't that version of me deserve a chance to come out and play? I'm not a robot. You're not a robot. You get to experience what it is to live in the moment and have real connection. Does that sound exciting? And sometimes we can interpret excitement as anxiety. And that the difference on that is just a mindset. That feeling in your body could be interpreted as anxiety, but it could be interpreted as excitement. Depends on what your mindset is. Let's see what the advice is. Supportive resources, Cirrus. Cirrus is the unconditionally loving mother. What I want to say about this is maybe you know somebody who's unconditionally loving and kind. You know? If you're unsure about the person that you're going towards, making movement towards, at least you know there are people in the world that exist that are kind, you know? So there's limitless possibilities that exist. You're not attached to an outcome. But one of the possibilities is that this person is also that, you know? But you're going to be trusting yourself to handle yourself no matter what. Changes needed, integrity. It's asking you to act in line with your own integrity. Your own integrity is acting in line with what's important to you. Where have you been out of your integrity? Do you usually go after something that you want? Are you sort of holding yourself back in avoidance of some insecurities and immaturities under the guise of I can't decide? You know? Where are you playing a game with your own self? You know what I mean? Add more, seventh house. Again, seventh house comes out. This is saying add more partnership into your life. What to surrender? Nessus. Okay, this is interesting. Nessus is an asteroid that represents, in short, I would just use the word abuse, but I don't want to scare you. Surrender, abuse. Duh, right? Like, so that's not what we're gonna say about this, but what I can say is, like, Nessus was kind of a manipulative dude because, so basically there's several different stories of the mythology, but basically he was taking so-and-so across the river on the ferry. And then he started to take advantage of her or do something untoward. And then it was Hercules' wife, though, and he came to rescue her. And so they fought, and then Hercules got injured, and Nessus told the wife that if she put his blood in Hercules' wound, that Hercules would, I don't know, always be faithful to her or would heal. I'm not sure. But basically, when she believed Nessus and did that, she killed Hercules by doing that. So Nessus was kind of this, like, he had a plan, and he had a plan even when he was going down, and he was sort of ruthless. He was out for himself, and he was not caring about who he hurt. Maybe you've dealt with someone like this in the past, and maybe there's a fear around that, right? Maybe you've seen yourself act that way. Maybe there was something suppressed within you that's angry about being treated that way, you know? And so maybe this is a topic that you need to explore a little bit for yourself. Because it's saying, get in there about what's happened to you. Who has treated you unfairly? Who made you feel like you were bamboozled and tricked? Who was taking advantage of you? Who left lasting effects of their abuse behind with you? There is hurt still in there. And maybe you're trying to protect yourself based on those old hurts. And maybe that is why you're seeing life through the lens of that. Like, you don't know if that's going to happen again. Are you going to get tricked? Is this too good to be true? It's not, it's an illusion that is being put in front of you so that you will look at it. You have some deep hurts to heal. That's what it's saying. It's saying the reason why you don't trust yourself to proceed is because you haven't dealt with the version of yourself that feels mad that you got fooled, that you got taken advantage of, that you didn't see it coming, that you trusted the wrong person. Oh, I have a lot of compassion for that, and like I've done that, I've lived that, and it's a hard thing to heal. It shook me a lot because I didn't know who to trust, and it shook my faith because I was using, oracle cards at times to be led into the situation. And I got all that happened to me, and I got really shook afterwards because how could I trust myself to make any decisions if I was so stupid, you know? So I had to heal from that, and I had to come back from that, and you can come back from that. It's really a matter of processing all the ways to feel about it, acknowledging it, validating why did I do that? Well, there were reasons why I was susceptible to that. I wasn't looking at a lot of things. I was just looking at, I want love. I like this person. This person seems like they're good for me. I'm going to go all in. Now I would handle things a little bit differently, right? I would be more inclined to do what this reading is kind of saying and like hang back. Make sure we're on the same page and compatible. Make sure we can make an agreement. Make sure we can start out as friends and like see if we even want the same things out of life. I didn't do any of that before, you know? So in order to heal, I had to like understand why, it was because I was trying to fulfill a need that wasn't filled in childhood, a need of wanting to be chosen, of wanting to be loved, I was willing to like build that as the fantasy that I was living when it wasn't actually that, it was just like I made it that in my mind. So validate why I was falling into it, right? And then accept that here I am. That's what I've done. And like now I've got to deal with that. And like then be present with how it feels to have done all that. And then by processing through and being present with each of those feelings, then I healed. Then I became the version of myself that can handle that. And so now that is not a thing that's going to hold me back from going forward. Now my mind is able to see, oh, there are a lot of possibilities. Like that's not the only possibility that exists. Just because I lived it out once does not mean that every other time I'm going to live it out. It doesn't even mean that most of the times I'm going to live it out. Like now I can just see a bigger array because I took that veil out from in front of me when I healed. When we are not yet healed and the energy is still in us, we see life through the filter of that. So that's why we come in with doubts and fears and be like not able to trust, because it's like, oh, well, I haven't quite gotten good with the part of myself. I haven't understood the part of myself that made those mistakes yet. So I'm still living in fear of those mistakes, And it's not actually mistakes, it's just experiences. You had some difficult experiences that were very harmful, hurtful. There might be a part of you that feels victimized and that needs to feel victimized. It doesn't mean you'll stay there. So whatever you feel, don't feel it for the purpose of it going away, but just know that you won't feel that way forever. Humans do change the way they feel. Feelings are changeable. They'll never stay for very long. Opportunity, receptive, interesting. Because I was talking about you being asked to be in the masculine role or to take some action. And it says there's an opportunity to be receptive. I kind of want to say that the opportunity is to be receptive to this message. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Because receptive energy is feminine energy, right? The feminine receives the masculine. Well, this is intuitive guidance, and you have an opportunity here to receive it. Actions to take. Fifth house. Romance, children, self-expression, creativity. Yeah, it's saying do that. Sometimes it's like write a letter that you don't send. Actually, there's an option in my app to, use the journal to write letters you don't send. You can actually delete the entry completely, and if you don't want to save it. But writing letters that you don't send is a good way to kind of get it all out, right? and expressing yourself might help you to process what you need to process and really just see what it is. Because if you're not going to send it, then you can just be as honest as you've got to be. And you don't have to be afraid about what someone's going to tell somebody else, or what someone's going to think about you, or how they're going to retaliate. You just see yourself, and that's what's really happening here, is you're getting to know yourself. You're getting to know who you are, and you're doing that through a series of experiences, and some of them are, ones that you don't care to repeat. And you know that by the fact that you have stalled yourself so that you can complete the process of having had the experience. And when you complete the process of having had that experience, it won't continue looping in your experience. You will be more discerning. You will see it when it's coming. You'll see things from a different perspective because your awareness will be expanded. Having had the experience already, you'll be more aware of that experience as one of the many things that could be going on. So, of course, you'll be more discerning just naturally. You'll also naturally be compassionate for yourself and the version of you that experienced it. You're a human. You don't get to come in and be perfect and do everything right with never having to learn anything, you know? So if you've got to learn some things, why not that? On the other side of it, I think having been into those places where there's heartbreak, where there's despair, where there's this it's a real terrible feeling to not trust yourself. Like where those feelings exist, just know that one of the laws of the universe is that you can only go as high as you've been low. So some of these people who are trying to master things, they come in to experience the low end of the energy and the high end of the energy. So if you have been experiencing things in this sort of extreme like that, it's very possible that the reason is because you are gaining mastery on the whole scale of how that energy can be used and seen and dealt with. So you're doing some extremes, you know? And yeah, that does mean that you will likely experience the other extreme at some point. It's worth keep going, right? But of course, you can't go forward with that expectation, and you can't go forward without an insistence on the outcome, You you actually can go forward with the expectation if it's a true expectation. Maybe change it to an intention, because if your expectation is going to be made up of all the energy you've been practicing up to this point. So it can have, it can be tangled in with some of the old patterns that you've been living out if you haven't cleaned up on all of those. But if your intention is this, and then you just go forward with no insistence upon the outcome, then you kind of can stay in that position of just seeing, right? And then you're not going to go into an interaction or a partnership where you're insisting on them. You're not like trying to control them and stifle the truth of who they are. And then you get to experience the authenticity of someone else. And that is a beautiful thing. Bringing your authenticity to another person's authenticity. It's like that's the glory of God, right? Like you are both created here on this earth, and you're in God's playground, and then it's just it's a really good feeling to be embodying yourself and be living as that self without all of that programming of like, I gotta do this, I gotta be right, I gotta do that, I have this responsibility, I gotta control that, I don't want this. It's like all those are associated with fears, and we don't have to live that way, and it doesn't mean that we're just irresponsible, that jerks that never take care of our business. It doesn't mean that at all. Everything in balance. Okay, I feel like I said a lot of what you already know, and I'm going to say that's okay, right? Sometimes it's nice to hear it outside of you. Sometimes it's nice to have it reflected back to you. And that's the whole point of this. So if this didn't feel true for you, then that's not meant for you. Maybe it's someone you know is going through a similar thing, and you're meant to hear it so that you can have compassion for them. So only take what resonates. And thanks for being here.